Hello everyone, you're welcome to this edition of The Insight. I am Barrister Jonathan. Few months to the 2025 presidential election in Cameroon, we are looking at the state of the nation and projecting into the future of a better Cameroon. The nation that Cameroonians are earnestly yearning for, a nation where rights are respected, a nation where democratic principles are respected, a nation where the people have better living conditions. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest today is a renowned anti-corruption crusader and good governance advocate, eminent lawyer, international legal consultant, goodwill ambassador of the African Legal Support Facility, and member of the African Union High-Level Panel on Illicit Financial Flows, chaired by South African President or former South African President Thabo Mbeki, former Cameroon Bar President and presidential aspirant. Barrister AKERE, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
Right. What is your perspective of the state of the nation today? What's your reading of the current situation of Cameroon?
Well, it's a saddening situation, very saddening, because our country is stagnating right before our eyes. You can take any sector. I was listening to a magistrate, I think last night or 2 nights ago, and he was saying that the movements and promotions in magistracy have been stalled for 5 years. This, of course, because the High Council of Magistrates hasn't met. And I was in court in Bafoussam the other day, and I was talking to some members of the courts there, and they were deploring the fact that the guys who left school 5 years, 5 different batches, are waiting. They waited at home, and now they have deployed them in all the jurisdictions. But it is of no use, because they haven't been sworn in, so they cannot go to court. They're still living on salaries, which are their school allowances. We look at 5 generations. I bring this up because it shows that we are stagnating. How many cabinet ministers have we lost? Not replaced. If you go now to the economic sector, what is moving? We are now resorting to this commercial loans that we are now lifting at what, 11%. Other countries are doing 7 to 8%. Why? Because our country is considered a political risk. You listen to the teachers and others and the problems they have. Many years unsolved. University lecturers, many years, nothing unsolved. The roads, infrastructure, nothing is moving. We were sold lies. You heard the former moderator, complain about the fact that although they were saying 90% of the road, I think towards AKERE was done, nothing was done. I mean, virtually every sector is stagnating. And in the same time, we keep having scandals of thievery and corruption. The latest of which, of course, is the SNH scandal, in which a company is formed overnight with Tradex and a foreign partner and nobody has ever heard of for strategic petroleum storage in Kribi, and the head of the company is not only the wife of the boss of SNH, and she's now chairman and of the board, and also the head of the CEO of the company. I mean, you know, so what about Limbe refinery? Does it mean that that's it? They're going to move the refinery to Kribi? I mean, the country is in such a mess, and you wonder who is at the rudder.
You said Cameroon is considered today as a political risk.
It is considered by those who lend the money to the country. They consider us as a political risk.
Why? Because of the tension in the air? Because of
because of the uncertainty of the political process. The uncertainty. We have a leader who is 92 years old. Maybe he's brilliant. His party is uncertain. I mean, one member of the party is actually suing the party because he said all the organs of the party are illegal. So the confusion is palpable. And many reports consider Cameroon as an uncertain political situation, hence the political risk. We know that.
You've been talking to several Cameroonians from across the board recently. What have they been telling you?
Well, they've been telling us that, you know, they have no visibility of the future. They are distraught. The economic situation is bad. Just a simple number of teachers who are leaving this country and going to Canada and other places. Now, it appears, army people who are deserting and going to the Ukraine and places like that. We have a situation of a country which is in the most uncertain mood. And all the people I speak to, we went the other day with my team to Gomejab to campaign, and people sat at their corridors saying, "Venez nous chercher, on en a assez." So there's something going on. It's not even with ethnic, nothing. Cameroonians as a whole are saying enough is enough. I wouldn't have any solution, no proposals. And the fact is that the government is panicking, is moving to repression, a lot of repression. I mean, I was in Macaque, in a private residence. And the sous-prefect came there and was trying to tell me that I cannot speak in a private home. He even asked the police to arrest me, and they didn't move. So I think that there's some uncertainty in the air, and that's very, very sad. And the thing with countries that are, governments that are on their back foot, they become repressive, very, very repressive.
From that incident, what can you say about the state of human rights? Because in that incident where you were, or police officers were asked to arrest you and you were prevented from speaking in a private residence, that's an indication that the right to free speech seems to be
the free to live to the space, the citizen space where they can exchange. The country is so jittery. I'm reading about a press release from Mr. Anise Kanet. There was something they called the Douala Group. They're going to have a simple press conference at a place called Chaumière, and it was banned by the prefect. I mean, you know, and every day we are seeing meetings of people of the ruling party in rallies everywhere. I mean, you know, this is a strange notion of a progress of a country, where you feel that you run a race, not by running faster, but by slowing down your opponent. The country is in full panic, and the first victims of it is human rights. You know, people should get arrested and blackmailed for money. You know, this in North and Southwest is well known. They'll arrest you and you have to pay to release yourself. The incident with this valiant anti-corruption fighter, you know, in Boya, see what he did. I mean,
Tikutambe?
Yeah, of course.
The Human Rights Commission.
Yeah, I mean, it's so palpable. I'm surprised people still try to wonder. I mean, I saw a letter apparently which was sent by the governor of the Adamawa province, who was making a report that the CPDM is having problems and that more should be done to beef up. Is that the role of a governor? To monitor the progress of a political party and give advice on what they should do, what area they should go to? This is amazing. We are living in very interesting times. And what reassures me, two things: the resilience of Cameroonians, and secondly, the realization of Cameroonians that our country is now at a decisive turn, very decisive turn. And I'm sure, this morning I was out talking to about close to 100 bikemen who wanted to talk to me. It's amazing that every part of the society is moving, and those who don't see it will be at a risk and peril. And I'm hopeful for the future.
And there seem to be quite a bunch of Cameroonians who are not seeing what you're saying now, especially young people who are still caught up in the web of what some civil society leaders qualify as manipulation. Young people, like recently there was a gathering of young people in Boya and so on, and they came together and declared support for the candidacy of President
contributed 5 million.
Contributed 5 million, all of that. And those who are close to the regime think it's but normal to say thank you for what has already been done. But other critics and civil society leaders, political leaders, qualify that as manipulation. Do you see it as such?
Where there has to be, because if people are paid to go to rally, how come they have money to contribute 5 million? I mean, you know, it's so basically stupid. Who are they trying to reassure? Who are they trying to, and the youth, please, we should say this. If you were 8 years old when Biya became president, today you are 50. You've gone to primary school, you've gone to secondary school, you've gone to university, you've specialized, you're married, and you're 5 years from retirement. So that's the only system you know. With all the corrupt practices, the dishonesty, the lack of integrity, the shortcuts to different areas, that's all they know. So they believe that's all they know. That's the way you move ahead. Go and be in the rally, be at the head of the rally, and sing loudest that the president is the strongest, most intelligent, and most handsome, and stuff like that. So that is to mitigate. They don't know better. And they think in this country to go ahead, you have to have a twist, a turn. You have to have some kind of irregular path. So all of them are struggling to go through that path. So I think the first people who need to be reassured and to be saved are the youth.
And political leaders like you often accused of not doing pretty much to educate those young people, to educate Cameroonians, to bring political education to Cameroonians. Sometimes you're accused of only appearing when
the election is we have an interest. Well, you know, I've done my very best. When I finished investigating Glencore, I opened up a path and I said all the documents which I've spent tens and tens of millions to put together, I give them out for free. It's a compilation of close to 35 documents. And any youth who just calls and asks, he's given the whole set of documents. He can see the graphs, the documents, to see how it was stolen. That's educating them, okay? 6 years since Sonara burned down. Why can the youth in Fako or Southwest march to ask why Sonara has not been rebuilt? They march to ask for the president to run again? Why? 6 years. And now we're all hearing rumors that the refinery was going to be moved to Kribi. And this new project with this Sea Star, or whatever it's called, to build strategic petroleum reserves in Kribi, it might be just the first step towards moving the refinery from Limbe to Kribi. And that would be disastrous. Limbe lost a deep sea port. The pipeline that went from Chad to Kribi, the pipeline in its original plan was meant to go to Limbe. It's shorter, it's a better seaport for such activities. We lost it. Okay. Now we have the scandals about oil, the stealing of the oil, and then now the refinery 6 years unbuilt. And people are making money because before we imported oil to refine, and so it could go to our markets. Our own crude we sold because for some strange reason the refinery that was built for us in Limbe cannot refine 90-something% of our own oil. So we have to import oil. For now, the guys are feeding off this. They import oil, the petroleum products, and they also import refined products. We are not refining. So there we are.
Well, about the purported plans or reported plans to transfer the refinery from Limbe to Kribi, we are yet to independently confirm that information. Now, about the security state of the nation, because this is another part which is very, very strategic, very crucial, affecting the integrity, the territorial integrity, and threatening the unity of the country, especially with the conflicts in the northwest and southwest regions.
Yeah, also in the extreme north and also in the east. Yeah, it's far north. Thank you for that. I think that is one of the things that contribute to the fact that our country is viewed as unstable and insecure. I don't understand how we don't have a real peace plan to bring everybody together in a meaningful dialogue to solve this crisis. It is turning into an economic crisis, almost like the one of the Boko Haram in the far north, where people are actually benefiting from the uncertainty. It's true that with the new general commanding in Bamenda, here things are improving because he's very, he's somebody with a lot of integrity and is fighting hard. But I think, you know, people are benefiting from the situation. And bandits now have got into the game and are benefiting too. So that's insecurity, the northwest and southwest. Can you imagine to this day we still have the ghost town on Mondays that the country cannot control? It's accepted. It is incredible. If you go to the far north, all international organizations have said clearly that the problem of Boko Haram has a root in the economy. That's where the root is. The people have no means of survival, no means of income, no subsistence. So when Boko Haram comes around and hands them some euros, they are ready to go ahead. So I think we have to have a serious, genuine effort of people who are passionate. In my own program, which we'll talk to afterwards, you know, there's something I call what I'll accomplish in the first 100 days. And among top of that is solve the crisis in Northwest and Southwest, the far north, and the east that suffers from the consequences of the instability in Central Africa. So that, I think, can be done with a genuine effort. The government insists on trying to solve the problem itself. It's not possible for you to have two feuding parties and one of the party thinks that it can solve the problem. It's impossible. Most people resort to an arbitrator. Look at Congo and Rwanda and what America is trying to do. It's impossible to have some kind of misunderstanding and you feel that a third party who has no stake in it is not the best person. So I think you're correct.
And even here we had the same situation with the Canada mediation.
Exactly. But that, before that, the Swiss one that fell through. And it fell through just because of the lack of cooperation of the government. The Canadians, everything was set. From my own information, the government was agreed, everybody was agreed to it, and suddenly the government pulled out, saying that, it never authorized any process. I spoke with the Swiss ambassador who was in charge of this process. He was very upset. I told him from the beginning, I said, if you don't have a genuine manifestation of people who want to solve a crisis, you're wasting your time. Of course, towards the end, he came and saw me and said, I think it was a waste of time. I could meet the important people, and now we're going to put a hold on this. Now, that is it. You know, we are managing a crisis. Politically speaking, maybe it's healthy. How many million, close to 1 million have left the Northwest. Menchum, I think in Menchum, the last elections, there were 25,000 people registered there. Less than 1,000 voted. Probably army people and government workers. So, politically speaking, how do you have an elections in the Northwest? Who is going to vote? Where do they vote? Where are the polling stations? Is it going to be security? So, I think this sad situation, some people feel they can benefit for it. But I think their number is up.
However, some of those questions are still hanging as we move towards the presidential election about the situation in the Northwest and Southwest regions, and how the voting is going to take place there and so on. We'll take a look at your vision of the Cameroon of tomorrow. But before that, we go to the newsstands and we are looking at what the newspapers reported this week. The press view. The Post reports support for Burkina Faso's transition president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Africans at home and abroad protest in solidarity with Captain Traoré. Cameroon Tribune reports cordial ties between Cameroon and Chad with the inauguration of the bridge over the Logon River connecting both countries. Another issue of Cameroon Tribune qualifies the name Paul Biya Glasshouse given to the new National Assembly building as a historic name. Municipal Update reports that during the visit of Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph John Goode
The Far North region reiterated its readiness to re-elect President Paul Biya, and in that perspective, the Guardian Post says the PM garnered huge support for President Paul Biya in the Far North region. Another issue of the Guardian Post presents faces behind prominent elite clubs.
You're welcome back. We are still with our guest, Barrister AKERE, anti-corruption crusader, good governance advocate, and presidential aspirant. Now, Barrister, earlier you showed your intention, you declared your intention to run for the top job of the President of the Republic, and then that ended halfway, and now you've come back. What is different this time?
I think the first time I ventured into this field, I was actually causing my transition from civil society politics, or activism as some people call it, to real political engagement, dealing with political parties. And so our electoral system forces us to be able to either have a political base or to have 330 signatures. That's 330 from every region. So what's different? What's different this time that the president is 7 years old. His ability to act is patent, even to those who thought that, oh, he's the best who can do this job. And I think Cameroonians, their situation has deteriorated to a point where they know they need a change. So I think that people will be receptive to my message. I've been talking about corruption for the past 30 years. And so people think it's a joke. I have to make an exception here, though. Prime Minister Musonge saw this very well. And he had concrete policies to move us out of that. But I think he was slowed down by other forces. The strength of Transparency International started with PM Musonge. When he was PM, I think he perceived this, that the biggest problem we have, the obstacle we have, is corruption. And I think Cameroonians more and more, those I meet, those who write to me, those who sneak in to see me at night, those who send messages, those who send emissaries, it is clear that they understand that the biggest problem we have in this country today is corruption, is money. You see rallies now with a hand of, loaves of bread, a bottle of juice and 2,000 francs. And that's everywhere. Everybody's seeing that. What is that? What is that? And so, the way appointments go, the way the country is managed, setting aside the citizens, they feel it. Not even just in public life, but even in the CPDM party, the ruling party. They go and elect a president of a section. They turn around and make a delegate who is appointed. So he controls the guy who is elected. You elect a mayor, but the whole thing is controlled by who? By a prefect. You name a president of a region, indirect elections, so be it. But again, I was in an event in the southwest, where in the protocol, the president of the region arrived after the prefect. So we are in a system which is just make-believe. That is a democratic system. And Cameroonians, citizens, ordinary citizens, are feeling it. They're noticing that this is not right.
So, Barrister, are you now more determined than ever before?
Oh, fully determined.
To be driven,
fully determined.
To be driven by Cameroonians to the Unity Palace. And not, in fact, what I'm asking is, should they not be bothered about
the fact that I will.
The fact that maybe along the way, Barrister will say, okay, let's stop here. Yeah. We'll come again another time.
I can't do that. I'm 72, going on 73, so, Hence, in my program, I'm proposing a 5-year term, one only to make sure I put everything in place. Hence, I'm deciding to remain civil society. We'll come back to that later on. But to face your question directly, this time I'm determined. Professor Kumvondo, who is the head of the Univer Party, and Dr. Balaguer, who is the Secretary General of UPC, and some other leaders came to see me.
Jean Dennis of the Popular
Of course, Jean Dennis, valiant, youthful, hard-working gentleman, self-made man actually, came and saw me that they think that I should run and they would support me. So in the first line, of course, is Professor Kumvondo, who was a party with elected officials, so he qualifies to nominate. And when people come and talk to you, that they think that my expertise is what can take them out, when they agree that a transition period is necessary to look at all the constitution, the electoral laws, and put everything that everybody plays on a level, even playing field, then we can have elections again. I think that I'm determined that there's anything I can give to my country is to make sure that we can transit from this abyss to a hopeful future. I mean, you know, in other countries, this is done by how? It's done by coup d'etats to go to the transition to have a rebirth. The exception is, I think, Liberia. Late Professor Amos, whom I worked with, I knew very well, he used to tell me that AKERE succeeded. I was a professor in university, and they came and got me to be the interim president, to put all the laws together. When he put all the laws together, he organized elections and left. So I think that inspires me a lot. The fact that we can start again on a fresh footing. We can start again to give the youths a chance. We can start again by making the Cameroonians benefit from such a rich country that can feed everybody, give a good future for everybody, give us health, give us the infrastructure, and unite the country doing that.
Yeah, in your first official outing, you vowed that the 2025 presidential election won't be like the others.
Correct.
How different would this 2025
because of the
election
engagement. First thing, in the other elections, I think that opposition parties were present in approximately 70%, no, less than 30%. So in almost 70% of the polling stations, it was only the ruling party present. So first point, we have to make sure we had every polling station. There are going to be around 30,000. 30,000 polling stations, you need minimum one, that's 30,000 people. Up to, you know, medium, you should need two, which should be 60,000. And my brother, if you're giving 10,000 for the day's feeding in those stations, that's 600 million CFA. Who will have it? So Cameroonians have to learn to volunteer to save themselves. It shouldn't be all about money. So we have teams going around, taking down names of people who are ready to go to the polling stations. And we should make sure that all the polling stations are peopled. I was in charge of totting up the votes in '92 for SDF, when SDF won, when Fundi won. And we had in real time the guys who call and say, oh, polling station number 267 in Douala, the result was so and so. We noted down. So within 12 hours, we had the full results. And we'll do it this time. We can make sure we have the results. It's not say, oh, we won and you cannot give the results. No, we'll have the results for every official polling station to know exactly who was there, who voted, and how they voted. And for that, we are appealing to Cameroonians to join us. It's a future. It's the future of our country. It's the future of our children. If we don't do this ultimate sacrifice, of course, those who blowing the government away say, oh, you cannot win, you are nowhere, the government is almighty, it is everywhere, you know. Maybe it's a battle between David and Goliath, you know, but the pebbles we have in the sling are divine, and we will win.
Right, and you know, this is a message that seems to be unrealistic to many Cameroonians who are kind of caught up in that yoke of as it was before, so shall it be. So they just think that with the mechanism of the ruling party in place, with everything that is going on, pretty nothing is going to change. And
I get that worry, but the mistake people make is the fact that they believe that even those within government are happy with the situation. It's not true. I bet you there are people in Elekam, I bet you there are sub-prefects, I bet you there are magistrates, I bet you there are civil servants who have had enough, who have seen that they have stagnated while non-performing civil servants have been promoted. I bet you there are magistrates who are stuck in the same place. I bet you there are people in different government departments who have seen their juniors surpass them when they are hardworking. I bet you there are students who go up and down looking for a job while people who were behind them in school are boasting. So we have a groundswell of Cameroonians who are seeking justice. And when they will see the path to justice, they will follow it. And so those who say, oh, well, the government is almighty, I don't know about that. You know, in some countries where they used to say, before us it was us, now it will be us, and after us it will be us. They went away. Many countries in Africa who did that. So I think that I'm trying to get together around 200 to 300 lawyers to post in every division, at least between 5 to 10, in every region, 5 to 10 lawyers who will be there as volunteers to follow up with the pollsters, with the scrutineers, those who are in the polling stations, to advise them and make sure that, legally speaking, no authority can come and influence them. So we are putting into place a system to guarantee and to protect the votes. That's where we start, before building up on reassuring people that they have to go and vote. 3 million people didn't vote the last time. 3 million. It's composed of people who thought it wouldn't change. It's composed of people who are displaced and didn't go to transfer their registration. There are all these pockets of voters.
Those who have become pessimistic.
They're pessimistic. All we are talking to those people. Register. If you were registered in I don't know, in Fundong, please come in now and transfer your registration. There's all that has to be done. And it's expensive.
So, Barrister, are you telling Cameroonians that it is possible to turn the tides? It is possible to change this situation. I'm not
saying it's possible.
In October.
I'm saying in October it will happen. It is most probable that Cameroonians will wake up to save their future. It is probable. I mean, you cannot have a country run by the most dishonest gang of people and everybody sees it every day. I mean, the kind of money people are supposed to have embezzled, those who are locked up, can you total up how much they're supposed to have embezzled? What has happened? The audit bench of the Supreme Court said that people stole in COVID. Nothing has happened. Olembe Stadium, people stole. Nothing. Garwa Stadium, which was never operational, people stole. Nothing has happened. Come on, man. You must feel that Cameroonians are so stupid that they don't feel that they need a change to move forward. We are a country loaded with mines in the east. Can you imagine that we don't have a mining industry per se? It's still this permits and artisanal with a lot of foreigners in league with some government officials who just dig our mines and go away. I'm convinced that now is the time, and I hope we can have this conversation in November, you and I, but in Unity Palace.
We hope so. Right, so let's get into your vision.
Yeah.
Your vision for Cameroon, which is based on 8 pillars.
Correct, yes.
Tell us more about this
listen,
8-pillar vision.
As I told you, my proposal is to do a transitional government of 8 years, 5 years. And the 5 years would be to fine-tune all the instruments of governance and make sure we can go ahead. And the 8 pillars, those I consider should be the locomotive of the driving force, you know.
And before we get into your vision, these promises have been made by other leaders before. I mean, those are already in position of authority. And some military leaders also who came in and said, okay, I'm just going to fix things. I'm just going to put order. And then I hand over to a civilian. I hand over to this or that. And then at the end of the day, the sit-tight syndrome comes in. And
well, listen, I am grateful for the life I've had, the experience I've amassed from everywhere, and tell you, this is an expensive enterprise, one. And secondly, I could go and work anywhere and end much, much better than what I'm spending now, wasting my time on. So I am determined that this is the best gift I can do to my country, to head a movement that brings in a transition. So all I can do is watch me, as James Brown used to say in his song, watch me.
Right, so
I'm going to do 5 years and resign, because it's 7 years, 5 years and resign. and I'll leave at the age of, under 80, 78 or something like that. And I resign just to make sure that the country can breathe again. So we can bet on it. You can say what you want. There is no way. Even if in 5 years the process is not completed, I will still leave. I will still leave. But I think 5 years is ample enough to turn the system around, hold elections to all the different elected institutions, and finally the president's election. The president's elected, I doff my hat to him, and he becomes president.
Right, so give us an understanding of your 8-pillar vision for Cameroon.
Well, as I was trying to say in the beginning, this 8-pillar is priority areas. It's a priority program that will, I think, will move the country forward. The first thing is obviously
strengthening democracy and governance.
Exactly. Why? Because
we know you pretty much in that area of good governance,
democracy,
and democracy.
It is going to look at the electoral system. How do we build a democracy? And the school, in my experiences, you see me wear this badge here. It's from the African Peer Review Mechanism. I think that's the greatest school I had. It is an institution created by the African Union that evaluates the governance of all the institutions of every country. And I've led evaluations in Sierra Leone, Tanzania, Rwanda, Ethiopia. And you speak only to the heads of states. And I've been able to, through that process, to understand what are the basic needs of a country. So in trying to put that together, it's making sure that the institutions are there. They're injected with a new verve that has the people at the center and not the people at the periphery. That's very important. We have to make sure we have a strengthened civil society. I mean, the survival of a country is what I call the golden triangle. Civil society, which includes religious bodies and all that, public sector, and private sector. These are the three wheels. If they turn in unison, there's no country that cannot make progress. But in our country, civil society is suppressed. Look at what's happening to Mrs. Alison Combe, my colleague. This woman is 80. A couple of weeks ago, I was in court, sitting there, wondering what was happening to an 80-year-old lady in court because she broke down the seals illegally placed in an office. This is ridiculous. We don't have better to do. We have declared criminals running up and down, and all our target is on Alison Combe, 80 years old. Come on, man. So I think that is democracy and governance.
And that's why you're talking about promoting free and fair elections,
yes.
Strengthening transparency and accountability within government, and establishing a truly decentralized form of government within a federation where the leaders are chosen by the people. Correct. So you're talking about a return to the federal system.
Well, that is at the core of my decentralization project. This decentralization is fake. It's even centralized because you have a minister of decentralization, you have delegations of centralization, you have all of that. So I think that, we need to have a federal system, properly federal system. I don't have a problem with having Northwest and Southwest in separate states because they can mutualize afterwards. They are common law jurisdiction. They can have the same Supreme Court. I mean, they can agree on education. Why should somebody here in Yaoundé decide on the transfer of a teacher in my village in Gembo, primary school teacher at that? So, decentralization through a federal system is the way to go. It's the way to go.
And you're also talking about establishing an appropriate legal framework for the declaration of assets to ensure an effective fight against illicit enrichment. About this, because the legal system that we have in Cameroon today is seen by many Cameroonians as an institution which they cannot trust.
True.
Are you saying that this situation will change and the people will be able to trust their legal system?
Oh, of course. You have to get the magistrates. If you liberate the magistrates institutionally, then you can hold them accountable. He cannot go and give a judgment. There have been cases where I go and talk to cases where he had instructions. Judges have told me that. So why do we have
the Minister of Justice recently talked about influence peddling.
Yeah, exactly. He said, haute instruction, that people shouldn't believe it. That is from the inside now. It's not me saying. Okay, the president is the head of the magistracy. That's the judiciary. He's head of the executive. He's also indirectly head of the legislature, because he has the majority in parliament, and he decides who becomes the president of the parliament, and he determines basically who becomes the president of the Senate. Since he names 30%, he just needs 21% to be able to be the boss of the Senate. So he controls all the institutions of the country. He controls everything. It's not surprised that, we saw the parliament being named after the leader of a party who never sat in parliament. All these things we're seeing, my dear brother, are signs that we have a system which is just crumbling right before our very eyes.
All right, and then on the second point, you have economic development and job creation. This is an area which directly affects many Cameroonians, especially when we're talking about job creation and so on. Then you're talking about making Cameroonians living abroad a key element in our country's development process. Are you talking about changing the law on issues of dual nationality, for example?
Or multiple. That is one thing I can't understand. In 2023, 400 billion CFA came into our country from Cameroonians living abroad. I don't like calling them diaspora, because for some strange reason, when they talk about diaspora, it's about blacks and Asians and all that. You never hear about the American diaspora, the German diaspora, the French diaspora. You don't know how many you can have, so I just call them Cameroonians living abroad. My program for the resurrection of the country is impossible without institutionally linking Cameroonians. So I have a simple principle. Born a Cameroonian, always a Cameroonian, regardless of whatever nationality you take. It's ridiculous to have people who cannot come back to this country. They have to go and get a visa, get letters of invitation, all kind of rubbish. It is a financial problem. Okay, let's say that if you're a Cameroonian, you need to pay X amount of some kind of poll tax for your head, per head a year. Cameroonians will pay that. But they should be free to go and come from their country. So within 1 hour of being sworn in, that will be sorted out as a temporal gap by executive order, which is called decree. But the law has to be amended to make sure that we Cameroonians can be Cameroonian and can be in any other nationality which one. Most of the time, nationalities of convenience. So we have to make sure that if you're born a Cameroonian, you will always be a Cameroonian.
Even if you take up another
1, 2, 3, 4, 5
nationality.
Some people think I don't have an advantage in it. My late wife was American, from the West Indies. So she had a West Indies passport, she had an American passport. She lived so long in the UK, she had a UK passport. I was married for over 40 years. I have never applied for another nationality. Never applied. I've never been any national of any other country. I've never applied for another nationality. Of course, my daughters, they're married, they're living abroad, so they're American. So that's their problem. But I've never applied, and I will never apply. All
right. Well, definitely, when we look at the amount of money flowing into the country from the diaspora, from Cameroonians who are out there, 400 billion and so on, that was in 2023. We can perceive that you're thinking about bringing in this money or stepping up the financial flows from out there to boost what you highlight in your economic and development, job creation, economic development and job creation perspective of your vision, talking about investing in infrastructural and technological development, rethinking the country's strategy as regards railway lines, air transport and road networks, promote agriculture, innovation, food safety, build a favorable environment for the business climate, and investment protection. All of these are really sounding beautiful.
Yeah.
But
how do you go about it?
The issue is how to go about all of this.
I think that Cameroon is ready because of the failure of those who are down here. Nothing has been done. Can you imagine if we decide, and I'm holding this from experts, a former president of the African Development Bank, he said, AKERE, you guys by now should have had a railway line that goes from Yaoundé to Crusader with a new gauge, because you know our railways is still the old gauge, so narrower. The new gauge is wider. The trains move faster, and they are modern. So you can have that. I tried to get them to accept it, they didn't. He said, AKERE, if you become president, I volunteer to be able to raise the money for a railway link between your two main cities, Douala and Yaoundé. So you can have electric trains. The advantage of that is that even the villages now will benefit from electricity. So, can you imagine how many people were employed in that process? The plans for bringing back people from the boys from the bushes, so to speak, and all that. What is the development plan linked to it? Is it just comes for a settlement? How do they move on in life? Some come and go away. How do you move on in life? How do you move on in life? What industry do you propose to them? I went to Kembong 3 days after the destruction. You know, so 2 or 3 Ghanaians were killed, and the army just moved in there and just destroyed the city, one of the vibrant cities in the Manu. 6,000 about inhabitants. The place was cleared. Houses burned, destroyed, hotels torn down, TV. I mean, it's amazing. From 6,000 people, there were less than 10 people there. Old guys and people who were there to take care of their family. That's those who were left there. And what was the plan for reconstruction? None. The government should have quickly moved in there and said, you know what? Who was the plumber here? Who was the hardware store person here? Who was the builder here? Who was the carpenter here? Get those guys together, retool them, and help them rebuild their areas. And that's what we should do. All these villages that have been destroyed, we should empower those who were there before to be able to rebuild. And that's what the government should be doing, to make sure that people can rebuild and fend for themselves. So that project, all these projects are meant to, when we talk about the diaspora and, you know, the Cameroonians living abroad, so to speak, the human resources there are incredible. There are doctors, professors who are ready to give 2 months a year to teach. We don't need a mercy ship. We have specialized doctors. You put the unit here, they will say, okay, every April and September they'll be here to do the most complicated operations to help Cameroonians. Give them space. And how do you reward them? We should have a department in this country that caters for Cameroonians living abroad who want to build. Where do they want to build? Help them to locate the land. Have a company that is really well made, retooled to help them build. Because they have a big problem. They will come and get the land, give the money to your cousin, the guy swipes it, and all that. We have Cameroonians abroad who have people sick here. You make a fund. They can take to pharmacy or wherever. They pay the pharmacy in a common fund. When the person is sick, they just go to the pharmacy and collect drugs. There are little things that can be done by Cameroonians themselves to help them. If you do the amount of food which is sold abroad, I'm happy that many Cameroonians, you know, are fighting hard to be those who sell our food abroad. It was Chinese before. With the increase of ethnic Africans in Europe, the consumption of Cameroonian products has rocketed. How do you feel? How do we feed in there? How do you get Cameroonians involved? There are so many things to do. Our education system, that's archaic. I mean, I'm proud of a young man called Mr. Fortier, who's created a company called Pequeño. It teaches people in telemarketing. He's trained about 1,000 people. He had a training session, a rally in the Palais de Congrès. Over 1,000 people who came to learn, how can I market? The young ladies who have been struggling in Mokola and other people to sell, now they can sell online. So that's what he does. Startups go to Silicon Mountain. How do you help those guys to move forward? What do you do? Man, there's so much to be done.
Tapping from the multiple opportunities
that are creating now
in the global business perspective of e-commerce. Now, about education, which you mentioned, one of the points has to do with STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Yes.
And before that, you're also talking about vocational training.
Exactly.
Tell us about these two perspectives.
Because
it looks like the education system of Cameroon today is more inclined towards theory.
Yeah, theory. I mean, you know, in days gone, you must probably be younger. There was Ombe Technical College, which was put there in West Cameroon in those days. Those guys made car parts. There was another thing that you could make furniture. These guys could do everything. So the vocational training, and also these companies we see all around the place, must be forced to take interns from our technical colleges and employ them as well. Of course, you can give them an incentive. Based on how many people you employ or train, you get a tax rebate. So they are forced to take some of these people. I met a gentleman who was teaching in technical school in Kongsamba. What did he do? He created a company. And he took everybody from every branch there. And they had contracts in the port in Kribi. And he took only his students. They did the job perfectly. And now they're waiting to get paid. When some people like that should have been prioritized in the government system, because when they get out, they're good to go. There are things that Cameroonians are ready to do, but they don't have help. Today I was telling you, I had a meeting with motor taxi guys. And then I realized that, do you know that we don't have a government urban transport system? How do people get to work? How do children go to school? How do people circulate? How do they move from these back cities with no roads? Motor taxi men. So they are fulfilling an enormous social duty. Yes, they are rough. Yes, there's this, and the other. I had a very important meeting in London once. I had to be there the next day. I left the house, I went through a Kunu traffic jam. There was no way. I was 2.5 hours from my flight. Myself, my assistant, and somebody else, we took 3 bites, carried my suitcases, we got to the airport. I was able to make such an important meeting, which determined many issues in my life. So then I realized that these guys, they have to be careful. Another thing I used to complain about, I say, you know, people should consume, we should not have second-hand clothing into the country because, you know, it slows down the local market. And, man, then my communications advisor took me to a market in Douala where they sell wholesale second-hand clothing. I met a woman. The woman said, I have 5 children. With 10,000 francs, I dress all of them. And I realized that if you don't look at the way Cameroonians survive, then you cannot know what they need. And I pressed her to say, no. These guys in high place, do they know what these guys go through, what they need to survive? So our vocational training is the same. If you go to technical schools, it's not to finish and go and stay home with the same parents who saw them through that school. They should be able to find something to do or be helped to start some business. So we have to concentrate on startups and change the curriculum, man. You know, all this, you know, philosophy and the stories about this and the other. It leads you to nowhere. The history of Europe and the First and Second World War is probably an interesting story, but it's not what people should be failing exams about.
I want the youth to understand that they constitute the majority. The youth constitute the majority, and that decision is very important to decide who becomes the president of this republic. They should register massively and vote a candidate who will change their story.
The youths are appreciating the efforts of the government in struggling to solve the issues or the problems that they are facing. They are mature enough to know what is right from what is wrong.
Those are all manipulations and fabrications by some individuals who are using the youth for their own personal benefit. Those to me is pure manipulation.
What can we do at the time when youths of such a nation cry behind and again in public manifest a state of irresponsibility, supporting that who has been in power for over 43 years, to others for more than half a century. And many are thinking, what is behind that this particular leader was supposed to do, and for this 43 years he has not done, and that he's going to do it in the next 7 years.
Barrister, tell us about the reforms that you're looking at in the health sector, in the social, justice and human rights sector, that is point number 5 and 6 respectively, and then you have security, peace building, security and peace building, and lastly sports, culture and tourism.